So now on the show, we are going to take a look at one of the big blockbuster films that so many people out there have been wanting to see this year. They've been counting down the days, and finally, A Quiet Place Day 1 is in cinemas right now. Now, this is kind of a prequel to the first two films in this franchise, and actually moves away from the family that we've come to know and love in the A Quiet Place franchise. Also taking a little bit of a step back this time it's not directed by John Krasinski either. It is directed by Michael Sarnowski, who made a bit of a name for himself a few years ago when he directed a movie called Pig that, of course, showed Nicolas Cage as a truffle farmer, and it got a lot of accolades. So a lot of people have been kind of interested to see what he could do with a big blockbuster film like this one. Now, like I said, this goes right back to day one of the alien invasion that we saw in A Quiet Place, and it revolves around a young girl called Samira, played by Lupita Nyong'o, who is a terminally ill cancer patient who resides in a hospice just out of New York City. Now, she misses the city. She hasn't been back to the city since her illness took over and she had to move into the hospice. But she kind of makes a deal with Ruben, a young male nurse at the hospice, played by Alex Wolff, that she will go back for a show, but he must also take her out for a pizza at a pizza restaurant that she loved in New York City. But unfortunately for Ruben and Sam, the day that they choose to go into the city is the day that the alien invasion happens, and soon they find themselves fighting for survival along with everybody else in New York City. And of course, Sam has got her cat with her, a cute little cat called Frodo, and her adventures in the city soon leads her to running into a guy who I guess you could say is kind of really suffering from post-traumatic stress with what's happening with the invasion. His name is Eric, played by Joseph Quinn. And from there, the battle for survival starts. Now, Lee, you've been a big fan of the A Quiet Place franchise so far. What did you think of this one, especially considering that there's only one character in this one that we've seen previously, and he wasn't a big character in the other films?
No, that's right. Okay, so I can tell you that I am still a major fan of this franchise. After seeing this film, I actually think I want to go and watch it again. There was so much to this story. I think, first of all, with each movie in this series having to be quiet and not having too much dialogue is always going to be challenging to keep an audience fascinated, but not in these movies. The actors do so well with how they cope, how they act out their part, so that you have as much emotion for them as you would with a movie with full dialogue. I think their acting is really admirable in that way. Now, I thought it was really interesting having a character, Samira, who is dying. You learn that in the first little while of the movie. It's
the first couple of minutes.
Yeah, it's not a spoiler. You've got this beautiful lady who's terminal with cancer and isn't obviously enjoying life. Apart from the pain and the suffering, you become a prisoner within I guess, that system of what you can and can't do, what carers have capacity to allow you to do.
And she doesn't have a beloved city. I think it's something that not a lot of people understand, the love affair that New Yorkers have with New York as well.
Yeah, and missing her own apartment and all those things that go with it. And of course there's a big emphasis. She just wants some pizza. I mean, it doesn't seem that hard, but
from her favourite pizza restaurant.
Yeah, pizza at home. When you're at home and you've got your favourite places to eat, and then you're living somewhere else and you have to abide by all the rules and eat the food you're given and
hospital food.
Yeah, it's not the same. It's not the same. So, you know, just those little things that they made the character real. She just wanted some pizza from her favourite shop, really. So I thought that just that storyline of, you know, in some ways your mind's kind of trying to figure out when the invasion happens and the aliens are there and, you know, why is this character fighting so hard for their life when they know that they've only got maybe days to live?
And in pain, like, part of me was thinking, like, why don't you just clap your hand and let one of them take you? Like, it's over in a second.
That's right. But then you've got other characters interplaying, and, you know, you have Ruben, the male nurse, becomes a part of the story, and then you've got Eric, as you said, with PTSD, and she becomes a helper to him. So while she's so unwell, he becomes mentally unwell from what's happening. She is his support person. Now the cat is a major storyline, and in many ways...
Frodo.
Yeah, his name's Frodo. And in many ways, I guess it is a story about the cat as well. Yeah, and so because I'm such an animal lover, and I am the cat lady, everyone knows this, I was holding my breath, my heart was pounding. Is this cat going to be okay? Is it not okay? I'm not going to tell you. You need to watch the movie yourself. But there were so many times I was holding my breath. I'm like, no, where's that cat? I kept saying out loud, where's that cat?
Do you know I actually found out that a betting agency in America, when the trailer for this film first came out, started a betting line on whether or not the cat would survive the movie or not.
Terrible. But I had to say my heart was for the cat the whole time. Even as much as the humans, and because I'm a cat lover, maybe even more. Because
he's such a big part of this movie. Like, he's the emotional support animal for Samira, and you keep on thinking, if anything happens to that cat, how is she going to react? Because in a sense, at the start of the movie, he's the only thing that she's got left in her life from her previous life before the hospice.
Or does she stay alive to make sure the cat's okay?
Yeah.
We'll have to watch and see. Now, I did look on IMDb because I thought, I hope the cat is actually listed as an actor. And he is. And in real life, there's two cats that play the part of Frodo. One's name's Snitchel and one's name's Nico. So there's just a little bit of information for you. But I have to say, I could not believe how calm the cats, I'll say cats because obviously there's two playing the part of one cat, how calm they were. And I was thinking, my cats would never be that calm, even with...
Our cat ripped my stomach open the other day because the dog barked while I was holding it, so...
Okay, that's a bit dramatic. I don't think your stomach was ripped open, but yes, you might have got a scratch. But, yeah, they were so calm in their role with being passed around to person or having to run off through buildings and all those sorts of things. They did a marvellous job.
And Michael Sarnowski is an old school director in the sense, I shouldn't say old school as in his age, but old school as in the way he wanted to shoot the film and he didn't want a CGI cat. So, yeah. Which
was brilliant. I love that the cats were there. Now, I guess with these movies, I while I was watching it, it made me realise how many storylines you could actually make, and how many movies you could make because of how many thousands of people were affected. Thousands and thousands of people were affected by the invasion of aliens, and each person has their own story, or each family has their own story. And so I just thought, wow, this could be never ending. Like, they could make it so they could make it so unique for each character having their own story, that while they do link at the moment, they all link into each other, but you could almost have spin-offs apart from that where some people had a complete different story and it doesn't link together. That's just something that went around
Yeah,
in my head.
well, like, even when I was watching this film, and this is not giving anything away as a spoiler, but at one point Samira comes across two children, and then she basically points them in the direction of the boats that are leaving and says, oh, goodbye. It's like, well, I kind of want to know what happened to those kids. Like, did they make it a block down the road before an alien ripped them apart, or did they make it to the boat? Like, now this is where this film does get interesting, because one of the characters here, we saw him previously in film number 2, where he was just referred to as Man on Island. But, of course, you kind of wondered about the character because it was played by Digimon Honsu, who is a big name in Hollywood. Now, this time around, we actually get to learn that his name is Henry.
That's right.
And at the start of this movie, he is in the theater that Samira is in with his partner and their child. I won't say wife because you're not 100% sure if they're girlfriend, wife, whatever. And we get to see a little bit of his story here as well. Now, of course, he's the one character that you know is going to survive because he's in the films that follow it up. But I kind of wonder whether or not the spin-off is going to follow his character and how he got to the island as well. So
we kind of hope so.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of a teaser for audiences out there as well. But my fear for this film was that because they took it away from the small town that the other films were in, we've seen so many disaster movies in New York, and even in the last 12 months, of course, we've had the spin-off of The Walking Dead with Maggie and Negan in New York City after the zombie apocalypse. So I was kind of thinking, what can they do differently with this disaster film set in New York that hasn't been done before? But I think what sets this movie apart is what they've done with the characters. First of all, as we said, you've got a terminally ill character. Now, normally with these kinds of movies, you'll have a young person that you want to see survive because they've got their whole life ahead of them. With Samira, you know that even if she survives this day one, then she's probably only got a few weeks left. Likewise with the character of Eric, normally you'd be introduced to like some kind of hero. Like if you think of a film like Battle Los Angeles, the Kyle Chandler character being a soldier and stuff like that. Normally you would have a hero kind of character. Instead here you've got a character who is literally so terrified that he can't speak the first few times you see him.
Which is good in a way because you're not allowed to talk.
Yeah, but I thought it was very interesting that the screenwriters would pick to have this film told from the point of view of somebody who is scared witless and somebody that you could argue wouldn't matter if they died like during day one because they haven't got long to live anyway. So I thought that was a very, very interesting take on this because it's so different to what you would normally expect in this kind of genre film. But it also, to me, gave a sense of realism because I was thinking, like, when these kinds of attacks do happen, like when you think of terrorist attacks and things like that we've seen during our generations, you don't normally have that hero. Like, you don't have the Arnold Schwarzenegger or the Bruce Willis or the Jason Statham that saves the day. You do have people that suffer consequences because of what's happened. So did you feel that made this more real as well?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I think that there was a lot to this movie that made it feel real. And, you know, even though aliens, you know, it's a bit of a fast stretch, but I guess if any attack happened, you know, if war broke out or something like that, you could feel that this movie showed the desperation, a journey within a journey. This beautiful character who is fighting for life in some ways, just to have some life, just to make the most of what's left within a huge disaster.
Yeah.
That story in itself was actually inspiring because really this character could have just given up and went, oh, well, this is going to happen to me anyway.
Yeah.
But they were fighting, for the small things in life, to have that last piece of pizza if she could. And, there's some disappointing times in this film for her. But then there's some things that she achieves in those last moments. And I guess some of the things she achieves has long-lasting effects, whether it's for herself or others. But then, I want you to watch it, so I'm not going to say what that is.
I just love that realism. I mean, you'll probably remember I watched the first season of The Walking Dead before you did. Someone from before it was available in Australia, someone from overseas sent me a copy of it on DVD, and I remember, I think you were sick. You were sick and in bed.
Maybe.
And I watched the first season, and I binge watched the entire first season in one night. I couldn't go to bed and I couldn't leave it because it just drew me in. I remember I rushed in and I said to you have to watch this show. I gave you the DVD and I said, you've got to watch this show, because it was the same thing with The Walking Dead. It was the realism that these characters were not heroes. In fact, one of them was a couple of them were actually villains that were wrapped up in this. But you had an older woman, you had a mother and her kids, you had a guy that worked in a convenience store. There was no army soldier or politician or anything like that. It was just these average people that suddenly got caught in this zombie apocalypse. And I think that's what I loved about this one as well. Not to say that the aliens are not a big part of this film, but the invasion itself is constant. It's happening around these guys. But yeah, I just think it was it was amazing the way that everything came together for this film, and they did it in such a different way. But Lee, to finish off, what are you going to give this 1 out of 5 and why?
I'm giving this 4 out of 5 for all the reasons I've already said. I thought they did really well with this movie, and having such unique storylines within the disaster, within the fight for survival, and I'm giving those extra points for the cat because I love the cat.
Yeah, I'm giving this one 4 out of 5 as well. I think the way that they make this movie so different to other disaster films works so well. Some great acting performances as well. I think that Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn are fantastic in this. In fact, I hope we get to see Joseph Quinn in more movies, because I think he handled this film pretty well, and a brilliant performance by the cats playing Frodo as well. So Lee gave A Quiet Place Day 1 4 out of 5. So did I. It is a general release, so check your local cinema guide, and it should be showing in a cinema near you.